morning and welcome back to my channel. I am so excited to have you here with me today. It is Saturday. It is a brand new season. I've got brand new hair. Summer is finally here. I thought it would be fun to take you along on what my husband and I eat over a weekend when we do not have the kids. They were at their other parents this weekend. The meals I tend to make on weekends when it's just my husband and I tend to be a little bit spicier because our kids are not big on spice. They tend to be a little more time consuming because we have a little more time on the weekends to make these kind of meals when we don't have the kids. And there's a few new recipes in there as well. Of course, everything is always plant-based with quite a few gluten-free options as well. And anyway, we're gonna go for a hike, and then when we get back, I'm gonna make breakfast, and that will start the what we eat in a weekend video. All right, let's go. After our long hike, all I wanted was a cold smoothie, so I made my raspberry cookie smoothie. It's packed with fiber from the beans, berries and kale, protein from the sandwich cookie flavored protein by Good Protein, and don't forget the beans I added give this an extra boost of protein as well. Healthy fats from the almond butter and almond milk. The exact measurements are in the description box below, along with a link to Good Protein's website. This is not a sponsored video, but I don't gatekeep around here. For our lunch today, I made my Southwest roasted corn salad. I began by making our dressing, blending together some plant-based yogurt, the juice from half of a lime, the juice from half of a small orange, a blend of different spices, and 1 chipotle pepper from a can. Blend, and then you'll have a perfectly balanced dressing that's sweet, tangy, and spicy and can be used on a variety of dishes. When I lived overseas in Taiwan, I spent a lot of time in the night markets, and one of the treats I enjoyed frequently was the roasted corn. So every time I make this, I think about the Taiwanese night markets. Coat the cobs of corn in olive oil and spices and roast at 350 degrees Fahrenheit for roughly 30 minutes, removing halfway to turn the corn, making sure it cooks evenly on all sides. I'm serving this with basmati rice, but feel free to use any grain you'd like. For our veg, I'm using some Roma tomatoes, which contain a powerful antioxidant called lycopene, which has been linked to reduced risk of several forms of cancer, including prostate cancer, a perfectly ripe avocado for healthy fats and fiber, red onion for more antioxidants and vitamin C, jalapenos, which I've heard can boost metabolism, but really I add them because I love the little kick it adds to this dish. Add your veggies to your rice along with a whole can of black beans for fiber and protein, mix it up, and add your dressing. Remove your roasted corn from the oven and allow this to cool enough for you to handle without burning yourself. Once cooled, cut the corn off of the cob and add it to your salad. I like my corn gently toasted, but feel free to cook your corn a little longer if you'd like. And that was our lunch for Saturday. In the afternoon, I started prepping our dessert since it needs a few hours in the fridge to settle. This is my creamy orange tart, and it's one of my husband's favorite desserts. We start by making the crust out of oats, pecans, almond flour, salt, and cinnamon. Mix this up and then add your wet ingredients, which are melted coconut oil, maple syrup, and almond butter. Once your ingredients are well combined, you're going to add them to a pie dish, and using the back of a spatula, press the mixture until it covers most of the pie dish. This won't be perfect, and it's totally fine. We're going to bake this for 30 minutes. For the creamy orange filling, start by juicing a small orange, which should give you roughly 1/4 cup of orange juice. To a high-speed blender, add a block of extra firm tofu, the freshly squeezed orange juice, the zest from 2 oranges, 3/4 cup of coconut cream, which is just the solid part of a can of full-fat coconut milk, 2 teaspoons of vanilla, and 1/4 cup of maple syrup. Blend this up and refrigerate until the pie crust is done baking and has cooled. Pour the filling into the cooled pie crust and refrigerate for a few hours, allowing the filling to solidify. For dinner, I was craving something spicy and fresh, so I made jerk tofu with pineapple salsa. I started by making the jerk marinade for the tofu. Blend together 3 Scotch bonnet or jalapeno peppers, 3 scallions, 4 cloves of garlic, fresh ginger, fresh thyme, half a teaspoon of nutmeg, 2 teaspoons of allspice, 1 tablespoon of brown sugar, 1/4 cup of tamari, the juice from 1 lime, 2 tablespoons of olive oil, 1 tablespoon of white vinegar, and a pinch of salt and pepper, and blend. Cut your block of tofu into 1/4-inch thick rectangles, and then I like to cut a grid on the surface of each piece, which allows for better absorption of the sauce. Add your tofu and jerk marinade to a glass container and allow this to sit for at least an hour before cooking. For a meal prep option, you could leave this overnight for a quick weeknight dinner. This simple pineapple salsa is incredibly refreshing and pairs perfectly with our spicy jerk tofu. Start by dicing 1 jalapeno, removing some of the seeds or all of them if you don't like spice. Dice 2 Roma tomatoes, about a half of a red or yellow bell pepper, a bunch of fresh cilantro, roughly half of a large pineapple, and about 1/3 of a cup of red onion. Add all of your ingredients to a bowl, drizzle over some fresh lime juice, and mix well. Feel free to add some salt and pepper and maybe even a little bit of smoked paprika as well. Returning to our jerk tofu, assemble each piece on a lined baking dish and bake at 375 degrees Fahrenheit for 25 to 30 minutes, turning halfway to ensure all sides cook evenly. After dinner, I removed the orange tart from the fridge and topped it with some fresh sliced oranges. By now, the filling had become more solid, similar to a cheesecake texture. This was the perfect way to end our Saturday. Typically on Sundays, I do something a little more special for breakfast, and today we wanted pumpkin pancakes with cranberry maple syrup. Start by adding 1 cup of plant milk to a bowl with 2 teaspoons of apple cider vinegar or fresh lemon juice. To a larger bowl, add 1½ cups of spelt flour, half a teaspoon of baking soda, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, a half teaspoon of salt, a half tablespoon of cinnamon, and normally I would add pumpkin pie spice, but I was out today. Returning to your milk and cider mixture, add in 1/3 cup of pumpkin puree, 1 tablespoon of melted coconut oil, 1 tablespoon of maple syrup, and 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. Pour your wet ingredients into your dry ingredients and combine. Be careful not to overmix or you'll end up with less fluffy pancakes. Dollop roughly 1/4 cup scoops of the batter into a preheated frying pan with a little bit of vegan butter or avocado oil. When you start to see bubbles forming on one side, flip them over and let them cook on the other side. For the cranberry maple syrup, add 2 cups of frozen or fresh cranberries to a small pot over medium heat along with 1.5 cups of maple syrup and 1 tablespoon of cornstarch. Stir until well mixed and let this come to a boil before reducing the heat to low. Allow to simmer for 5 minutes and remove from the heat. This will thicken over time. I am not sure why, since it's summer here, but I have really been craving tomato soup with grilled cheese. So that's what I'm going to make for lunch today. Start by cutting 6 to 8 Roma tomatoes into quarters, and then do the same to a yellow onion. Place the tomatoes and yellow onion onto a parchment-lined baking sheet. Top with some olive oil. Once the onions and tomatoes are fully coated in olive oil, bake at 350 degrees Fahrenheit for roughly 30 minutes. I like to add about 1 cup of carrot juice to this soup for sweetness and for some extra nutrients in the form of beta-carotene. If you don't have a juicer, you can either buy carrot juice or replace the carrot juice with broth. If you replace the carrot juice with veggie broth, I do recommend adding a tablespoon of sugar to cut the acidity found in the tomatoes. Side note, for the leftover carrot pulp, I made these yummy Morning Glory muffins from the Carr website, linked below. Next, soak half a cup of cashews in water. Ideally, you'll do this about 30 minutes beforehand, but if you forget, it's not a big deal because we're going to be blending them anyways. Once the onions and tomatoes are cooked through, add them to a large pot. Next, add your carrot juice, water, and veggie bouillon cube. Next, add in your soaked cashews. Now we're adding in 5 cloves of minced garlic. Here I'm adding in one of my favorite ingredients, sun-dried tomatoes packed in oil for that rich umami flavor. For our spices, we're keeping it pretty simple here with just some dried parsley and dried oregano. And lastly, we are adding some fresh basil. Allow this to cook for about 30 minutes before going in with your immersion blender to blend until smooth, or let it cool and use a standing blender. For dinner and the final recipe of this weekend, I made my butter tofu with homemade garlic naan. The naan recipe isn't mine, but actually one I found on TikTok, and it uses silken tofu, which was perfect because I actually had silken tofu in the fridge that needed to be used. I'll see if I can link the creator's TikTok in the description box below. You're going to combine 600 grams of flour with 1 tablespoon of dry active yeast, 2 teaspoons of salt, and 1 teaspoon of baking powder. Then you're going to pour in 1 cup of warm water and 200 grams of silken tofu. Mix well, and eventually I just got in there with my hands to knead the dough for roughly 8 minutes. Place the dough onto a floured surface and divide the dough into 8 even-ish pieces. Roll each piece into a ball. Add the 8 dough balls to a lightly greased dish and cover with a damp tea towel for 1 hour to let the dough rise. Moving on to the star of the show, the butter tofu. Start by adding a cup of plant-based yogurt to a glass bowl. Next, add in 1 teaspoon of ground turmeric, half a tablespoon of garam masala, some salt, grated ginger, and 3 cloves of minced garlic. Cut 1 block of tofu into half-inch sized cubes. Add the tofu to the yogurt mixture and let this sit for at least 30 minutes while we make the butter sauce. For our sauce, start by dicing half of a white onion and finely mince 5 cloves of garlic. Add 2 tablespoons of vegan butter to a large frying pan over medium heat. Add your onion and stir this for a few minutes before adding in your minced garlic, 1 tablespoon of grated ginger, your spices, which include ground cumin, garam masala, coriander, chili powder, and salt. Add in 1.5 cups of canned diced tomatoes, along with 1 cup of full-fat coconut milk. Stir before adding in 1 tablespoon of sugar and 1/4 cup raw cashews, preferably soaked in water a few hours beforehand. Reduce the heat and let this simmer for 30 minutes. Now that your tofu has had time to marinate, add it to a lined baking dish and bake at 350 degrees Fahrenheit for 15 minutes. Returning to your butter sauce, we're adding this to a high-speed blender. I would recommend allowing the sauce to cool before doing this, and to have the blender lid slightly open to allow steam to escape while blending. While our tofu bakes, we're going to roll out our naan bread. To cook your naan, you're going to add it to a frying pan over medium heat and cook on each side for just a few minutes. Return your blended butter sauce to the frying pan and add in your cooked tofu. And there you have it, butter tofu. This is such an easy dish, but it offers up bold and complex flavors. All of the recipes can be found on cashewsandcarrots.com. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!